In the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire was at its zenith. Suleiman the Magnificent and other sultans established a formidable empire, seizing vast territories and claiming dominance in the Mediterranean. Some European rivals even likened the Turkish Empire to Rome and Byzantium. The French philosopher Jean Baudin wrote in 1560, "Only the Ottoman Sultan held the title of absolute ruler. He alone could rightfully claim succession to the Roman emperor." However, from the late 16th into the early 17th century, the Ottoman Empire entered a phase of stagnation. Provincial uprisings, internal power struggles, unsuccessful attempts at expansion, and rival defeats occurred. All of this necessitated addressing the situation and restoring past glory. Despite slowing expansion and internal development issues, Turkey remained a powerful multi-continental empire. When Emmerich Thököly, a Hungarian nobleman fighting the Habsburgs, sought aid from Mehmed IV and declared himself a vassal, the Sultan saw an opportunity to attack the Habsburgs. Emmerich Thököly harbored a deep resentment for the Habsburg dynasty. His father, István Thököly, was involved in the 1664 Magnate Conspiracy, also known as the Zrinski-Frankopan Conspiracy. At that time, Croatian and Hungarian nobles revolted against Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I of Austria. The rebellion ended with the execution of its leaders, Petr Zrinski and Fran Krsto Frankopan. Count István Thököly was accused in 1670. Imperial forces killed him during the siege of Orava Castle. The 13-year-old István fled to Transylvania. By 1678, Emmerich Thököly led Hungarian anti-Habsburg rebels, the Kuruks, against Leopold I. They were promised support from French King Louis XVI, who opposed the Habsburgs. By 1680, Emmerich Thököly secured Ottoman protection. In 1682, under Ottoman patronage, the Principality of Upper Hungary formed. Emmerich Thököly became its ruler, agreeing to be a Turkish vassal and pay an annual tribute of 20,000 gold coins. The principality occupied lands now part of present-day Slovakia. The following year, Sultan Mehmed IV decided to support his vassal and ordered an army to march on Vienna. Meanwhile, the Austrian Habsburgs allied with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth for mutual aid. A massive Turkish army of around 150,000 soldiers marched from Edirne, the former Ottoman capital, under Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha. They passed through Belgrade before advancing towards Vienna. Reaching their destination in summer, the Turks encircled Vienna, establishing a vast encampment around the city. The Viennese garrison, led by Count Ernst Rüdiger von Starrenberg, had fewer than 20,000 defenders, unable to withstand the vastly superior enemy forces. Confident in his army's numerical advantage and assured of victory, Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha neglected to secure his camp and rear. The Polish army, led by John III Sobieski of the Commonwealth, joined Holy Roman Empire troops in Krems, en route from Warsaw, arriving to relieve Vienna in early autumn. These combined Christian forces, about 67,000 strong and led by Spolszyski, surprised the Turks. First, the Holy Roman Empire's army engaged the Ottomans, followed swiftly by a devastating Polish cavalry charge. Panic spread through the Ottoman camp, leading to a chaotic retreat. The Polish cavalry charge at the Battle of Vienna became one of history's most celebrated cavalry actions. The Ottoman army was routed, and Kara Mustafa Pasha fell back to Hungary. Austrian-Polish forces then launched a counter-offensive. The 1683 Battle of Vienna marked the first joint effort between the Austrian Habsburgs and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth against the Ottomans. Many historians consider it a turning point for Ottoman expansion in Europe. In the same year, the Battle of Parcheny occurred as the Grand Vizier tried to recover from his Vienna defeat. He appointed his ally, Kara Mehmed Pasha, as commander, who initially pushed back John III Sobieski's Polish forces. However, the Commonwealth monarch, with Austrian support from Duke Charles V of Lorraine, initiated another engagement. Austrian-Polish forces defeated the Turks, achieving another significant victory. Kara Mustafa Pasha retreated to Belgrade. For his military failures, the Grand Vizier was executed by order of Sultan Mehmed IV. These triumphs allowed the Habsburg monarchy to seize the war's initiative. Prince Emmerich Thököly of Upper Hungary fought at Parkany but soon lost influence. He continued fighting for the Ottoman Empire and was later granted Vidin in Bulgaria. In 1684, European states formed the Holy League against the Ottomans. Pope Innocent XI inspired this coalition of Christian nations. The initial members included Austria, the Holy Roman Empire, the Commonwealth, and the Venetian Republic. Meanwhile, French King Louis XVI remained neutral, maintaining friendly relations with Turkey. Louis XVI was a protector of Catholics in Ottoman territories. The Holy League Siege's first attempt to capture Buda failed. Forces under Duke Charles V of Lorraine tried to build on past success, but couldn't take the city, a key Ottoman-Hungarian stronghold. 2 years later, the Holy League forces successfully captured Buda. Duke Charles V commanded a larger multinational army then, including Germans, French, Italians, Spaniards, Danes, Swedes, English, Dutch, Czechs, and Hungarians. This united Christian force, primarily representing Austrian Habsburgs and the Holy Roman Emperor, reclaimed Buda from the Turks. The Habsburg monarchy solidified its control over Hungarian lands in 1687. The Second Battle of Mohacs mirrored the first in significance. Over 150 years prior, a Turkish victory led to Ottoman conquest of Hungary. This time, Duke Charles V defeated Grand Vizier Sari Suleiman Pasha's army. The Austrian Habsburgs took Hungary, and Sari Suleiman Pasha was executed by Mehmed IV. However, a change in leadership also occurred within the Ottoman Empire. But this shift in authority also happened inside the Ottoman state. In that same year, Turkish military leaders pressured Mehmed IV to step down from the throne and instead elevate his younger brother Sulusan II. Starting in 1688, the extensive Turkish War continued alongside another major military engagement, the 9 Years' War, where France was opposed by the Augsburg League. As a member of the Augsburg League, the Austrian monarchy consequently found itself engaged in simultaneous conflicts with both the Ottoman Empire and France. This situation prompted the Austrian Habsburgs to concentrate more on their conflict with the French Bourbons throughout the 1690s, rather than on their Ottoman adversaries. Concurrently with the primary engagement in Central Europe, members of the Holy League initiated independent operations against the Ottoman Empire across other European territories. Each state that was part of this Christian coalition aimed to conduct its own war against Turkey. Therefore, while contributing to the collective effort, they also sought to leverage the situation for their own territorial gains. The leader of the Commonwealth, John III Sobieski, who had previously assisted the Austrian Habsburgs in 1683 by saving Vienna from an Ottoman siege, orchestrated 4 separate expeditions against the Ottoman Empire and its subordinate state, the Principality of Moldavia. In 1684, John I Sobieski made his initial attempt to recapture Ukrainian Podillia and the Kamianets-Podilsky fortress from Ottoman control, but this effort proved unsuccessful. The subsequent year, Polish commander Stanislaw Jagiellonowski led a military action against the Principality of Moldavia, but near the Ukrainian settlement of Bojan, his troops suffered a defeat at the hands of Ottoman, Crimean Tatar, and Moldavian forces. By 1686, John I Sobieski embarked on a third campaign and managed to secure the capture of Żosz, the capital of Moldavia. However, he was unable to maintain control over the city. Ottoman and Crimean Tatar forces continuously carried out raids. The Polish-Lithuanian army faced shortages of supplies, and a fire erupted in Żosz. A pivotal event of this war occurred in 1687, when Venetian forces, under the command of Francesco Morosini, successfully conquered the Morea Peninsula situated in southern Greece. The Mauryan War stands as the sole conflict within the series between the Ottoman Empire and the Venetian Republic, where the latter achieved victory and acquired substantial territories. In 1686, the Tsardom of Moscow, a long-standing adversary of the Ottoman Empire, became a participant in the Holy League. This event marked the initial instance of Muscovy joining an alliance comprising multiple European states. To secure Moscow's backing against the Turks, the Commonwealth consented to the Perpetual Peace of 1686. This agreement reaffirmed prior accords, most notably the Treaty of Andrusovo from 1667. As a component of this treaty, the Ukrainian city of Kyiv was transferred from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth to the Tsardom of Moscow. The Perpetual Peace of 1686 officially sanctioned the division of lands belonging to the Cossack Hetmanate between the Commonwealth and the Tsardom of Moscow. A year later, the authorities in Muscovy organized the First Crimean Campaign, with the objective of targeting the Crimean Khanate, a vassal of the Ottoman Empire. Muscovite troops, under the leadership of Vasily Golitsyn, advancing from Okhtyrka, were reinforced en route by Cossack units from Ukrainian hetman Ivan Samoilovich and the Don Cossacks. However, near the Kinsky Vody River, the Muscovite and Cossack soldiers discovered that the Crimean Tatars had deliberately set the steppe ablaze, presumably to deny their horses adequate forage. It soon became evident that due to inadequate preparation, the troops also faced shortages of both water and sustenance. Vasily Golitsyn gave the order to withdraw. The inaugural Crimean campaign concluded unsuccessfully, and Hetman Ivan Samoilovich was held accountable for the setback. Subsequently, in the same year, Ivan Mazepa was selected to succeed him. The Second Crimean Campaign commenced in 1689, once again spearheaded by Vasily Golitsyn. On this occasion, the Muscovite forces departed from Sumy, and Ukrainian Cossack units once more joined their ranks, this time under the command of Hetman Ivan Mazepa. This time around, the Muscovite and Cossack armies reached the Crimean Tatar stronghold of Perekop. Throughout their journey, they successfully thwarted any attempts by Tatar forces to impede their progress. Nevertheless, as they neared the fortress, issues concerning a lack of food, potable water, and siege weaponry resurfaced. Vasily Golitsyn once again issued an order for a retreat. Despite the unsuccessful outcomes of the Muscovite Cossack expeditions, developments within the territory that is now modern-day Ukraine exerted an influence on the Great Turkish War. They diverted the attention of the Crimean Khanate, whose leaders, preoccupied with defending their own domain, were unable to dispatch military assistance to the Ottomans. This diversion weakened Turkish strategies for an invasion of Poland and Hungary. The failure of the Crimean campaign had a significant impact on the political landscape of the involved nations. Due to Golitsyn's defeats, his patron Sofia Alexievna, the regent of Muscovy, lost her position of power. Through a coup within the palace, she was deposed by her brother Peter. He demonstrated himself to be a more adept statesman. Following his decisive victory in the Great Northern War, Peter proclaimed himself the first emperor of the newly established Russian Empire. Simultaneously, the Cossack Hetmanate also saw the emergence of a new leader, Ivan Mazepa, who governed the Cossack autonomy for 2 decades and became one of the most celebrated Ukrainian figures of the Cossack era. Soon after, Muscovy initiated a new offensive against the Ottoman Empire, primarily targeting the Ottoman Azov fortress, situated at the mouth of the Don River. Securing this fortress was intended to grant access to the Azov Sea. A further principal objective of the campaign was to diminish the power of the Crimean Khanate. The initial Azov campaign took place in 1695. Muscovite forces arrived at Azov and commenced a siege of the Turkish stronghold. However, after repeated failed assaults and substantial casualties, they were compelled to withdraw. Concurrently, another Muscovite army, under the command of Boris Sheremetyev, alongside Ukrainian Cossacks led by Hetman Ivan Mazepa, advanced towards the lower Dnipro River, where they successfully captured several Crimean Tatar fortresses, including Kizkramon. Following the setback and retreat, the Muscovites organized a second Azov campaign in the subsequent year. This time they opted to employ a naval fleet to institute a blockade of the Azov fortress. The primary forces under the command of Alexei Shane moved towards Azov, while the ships of Franz Lefort navigated the Don River towards the fortress. Boris Sheremetyev led Muscovite and Cossack troops to the lower Dnipro to prevent the Crimean Khanate from dispatching reinforcements to the Ottomans. Furthermore, Cossack units commanded by Yakub Lisahub also marched towards Azov. With this second endeavor, the Azov fortress was successfully conquered. A critical element in the successful siege was the participation of the Zaporozhian Cossacks. The Azov campaigns facilitated the emergence of the Tsardom of Muscovy as a maritime power. Shortly thereafter, Tsar Peter I founded Taganrog, which became the inaugural naval base for Muscovy's military fleet. These campaigns also contributed to the weakening of the Crimean Khanate in southern Ukraine, consequently reducing the influence of the Ottoman Sultan in the region. Meanwhile, within the Ottoman Empire, a new sultan assumed the throne. In 1695, Mustafa II, son of Mehmed IV, ascended to the throne. He was resolute in completing the mission his father had begun, to reclaim lost territories and secure victory in the Great Turkish War. During the initial 2 years of his rule, Mustafa II, personally leading the military, achieved 3 successive victories in smaller engagements: Lugos, Olash, and Cheni. The Sultan intended to build upon these successes within the Tsardom of Muscovy as a sea power. Not long after, Peter I, the Tsar, established Taganrog, which then became the initial naval station for Muscovy's armed forces. These military actions also caused the southern Ukrainian Crimean Khanate to decline, thereby decreasing the sway of the Ottoman Emperor across the area. Simultaneously, a different emperor took charge in the Ottoman state. Ascending the throne in 1695 was Mustafa II, son of Mehmed IV. His firm resolve was to conclude the efforts his father had begun, to regain conquered lands and secure victory in the Great Turkish War. Within his initial 2 years as rulers, Mustafa II, personally guiding the troops, secured 3 successive triumphs in smaller confrontations: Lugos, Olash, and Cheni. The emperor intended to build upon these, leading to another bid for European lands in 1697. Their forces departed from Edirne, heading towards Belgrade, with the intention of pushing into Austrian Hungary. However, close to Zenta, while crossing the Tisza River, an unexpected assault came from the Holy Roman Empire's troops commanded by Eugene of Savoy. The Ottoman forces suffered a complete defeat, rendering Sultan Mustafa II's prior military accomplishments less meaningful. Meanwhile, the young Eugene of Savoy secured his initial significant triumph in a celebrated military career. The engagement at Zenta marked a pivotal moment in the Great Turkish War. This devastating loss for the Ottoman army cleared the path for a subsequent peace accord. Coupled with the Russian Cossack Azov expeditions, the Zenta battle moved the Holy League nearer to victory. In 1699, a summit convened in Karlowitz, culminating in the signing of the peace treaty. As soon as the accord was finalized, the Holy League was dissolved. The Ottoman Empire, for the first time following its extensive territorial gains in Europe, relinquished substantial lands in Western Balkans, Hungary, and from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The Austrian Habsburgs extended their domains and emerged as the preeminent force in Central Europe. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth recovered its territory of Ukrainian Podylia, while the Republic of Venice gained regions in southern Greece. 12 months later, the Ottoman Empire and the Tsardom of Moscow finalized a separate peace treaty, known as the Treaty of Constantinople, mirroring the terms of the Karlowitz Treaty. Through this agreement, Moscow secured its dominion over the Azov region, and the Azov fortress ended its long-standing annual tributes to the Crimean Khanate, and obtained temporary assurances of non-aggression from the Ottoman Empire during the Great Northern War, which had commenced in the same year. Following the defeat in the Great Turkish War, the Ottoman Empire entered not just a period of stagnation, but a gradual decline. Once a formidable state, still governing extensive territories. During the 17th century, it was poised to encounter internal unrest, losses in conflicts against rivals such as the Habsburg monarchy and the Russian Empire, and the forfeiture of its dependent, the Crimean Khanate, in southern Ukraine.